Hey guys, welcome to another Logic Over Emotion video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Portland, Oregon, and the response that the Trump administration is receiving in regards to sending in the federal agents to protect federal property. Let's get into it. Alright guys, before we start this video, I would just like to take a second to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the content. In order for us to get the word out, we need to be actively engaging with the video, so make sure to leave a like. It would be much appreciated. Alright, so I would like to start from the beginning. Let's keep in mind now that the protests started after the George Floyd incident, and it's been pretty violent in Portland since. And Trump has actually shown restraint in sending in federal agents in many of these cities, and he's just kind of taken a back seat, so to speak, to what's going on. And he eventually got to the point where he said, look, if the local governments are not going to kill off these protests, these riots, we are going to basically go in and handle the situation. Now, what actually prompted Trump to send in the federal agents, DHS, was the fact that there were threats to federal property. And some of those threats apparently were starting to manifest. So they sent in the agents to disperse everything, to get people out of the way, because they had started gathering outside of a courthouse or something. Now, of course, CNN's spin on this is that these were peaceful protesters, demonstrators. They weren't doing anything. And they had a clip of, I guess he was a 53-year-old vet, according to the title of the video. I'll link it in the description, of course. And it shows him getting sprayed and I guess hit with a baton a few times. And CNN anchor goes on to say, is this the type of treatment or practice that we should expect here? And Ken Cuccinelli did something really good, which was in his response, he said, I can't make a judgment basically off of a short clip where I don't have all the information, which is fair. Because when I looked at the clip, what I noticed was that after they had sprayed him and hit him a few times with the baton, he stepped back and they just left him alone. My understanding, looking at the video, is maybe they had certain barriers in place. He was beyond the barrier or too close to the barrier. They wanted him back. He didn't want to listen. And so when he stepped back, they left him alone. That's what I saw. But of course, that was only a snippet of the clip, so I can only give my assessment on that. Now, as far as all this is concerned, stating that things were getting better, yada, 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 this is the thing. You guys have had rioting going on in your city for weeks since the George Floyd incident. For weeks, and you haven't stopped it. And then when the feds come in and they start taking stuff under control, you're going to say, oh, we had it. What did you come in for? You're making stuff worse. This is the reality. There was nothing peaceful about these protests. And the fact that they then start gathering at courthouses and other federal property forces Trump's hand to send in the federal agents to protect that property. It's as simple as that. And they were interviewing people, and you had these guys saying, oh, you know, I was snatched up by unmarked people, put in unmarked vehicles, yada, 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 or not unmarked people, but what they were saying, because they clearly had police on their uniform, they were in full camouflage. They had been there the entire time, by the way, like all these weeks of violence, just collecting intel. And so these people knew who these guys were. The fact that they were acting like they didn't know who they were when they were snatching them up and putting them in these unmarked vans is crazy. But anyway, so they knew who these people were. And in the clip, you know, the woman keeps saying, use your words, use your words. Who are you? Who are you? Now, the police are these agents, I guess, have been told not to state their name. And they don't have their name on their actual uniform due to what's going on in society today with police. So they were just police. And CNN tried to make an argument that, you know, you're scaring these people, you're snatching them off the streets, you're throwing them in unmarked cars. And Ken Cuccinelli said, well, that's every police department, right? Every police department uses unmarked vehicles. Otherwise, the people would see you coming and they would just run. Now, if they're out at 2 a.m. arresting people, you're already in the wrong because you're already breaking curfew. I'm pretty sure there's a curfew. It's 2 a.m. and that is when you guys are gathered and doing stuff, and they're snatching you then. So just by breaking curfew, they can already snatch you off the street. Now, the particular case in the video, where they snatched the guy, put him in the van, it was actually because an officer 1 hour before that was apparently assaulted, and he fit the profile. And so they had him, Ken said they kept him in the van for like 10 minutes, found out it wasn't him, and released him. They weren't, because he had his hands up, he willfully went with them, he suffered no injury, nothing. They probably questioned him, found out it wasn't him, and they let him go. They let him go. Now, we have to stop acting like these riots in these cities are peaceful. They are not peaceful, okay? I mean, we would not need the federal agents to go in and protect property if they were peaceful. So CNN continues to try to spin this narrative that Trump just wants to go in and show his power and say, hey, I'm Macho Trump, and we're gonna squash all of this going on because your local governments can't deal with it. In essence, he did have to use a little force to get stuff done, but that's a reality. You got all these people out here. Yes, some of them that were peacefully protesting, but many were not peacefully protesting. And if you want to be out in the middle of that, then you may be part of whatever goes on, right? So this, if you're in the middle of people rioting and then you have law enforcement get involved, it's not going to be a pretty picture. This idea that the law enforcement can act perfectly and not have to injure anybody is just unrealistic when you have so many people willing to injure the law enforcement officer. That's just common sense. And so again, CNN does this terrible interview where they reach, and then you have the the attorney general talking about launching an investigation into how they were treating these rioters in Portland. And I'm like, seriously? Every time something happens, we need an investigation. Why are there no investigations into people actually destroying the property? Why can't you put effort into that in your own city? Your own city's being destroyed, but you don't care about that. You're more worried about Trump sending in federal agents to stop the nonsense. Because as soon as this dies out and there's no divisiveness, you no longer have a platform to preach from, because your whole thing is Trump is bad, and there always has to be something going on to make Trump bad. But this is just another case where, they reach and they act like what Trump is doing is wrong. It's not. You guys forced his hand. You didn't want to take control of your cities back, and so now he's forced to do it. And, all you governors, mayors, you guys should be held responsible for the damages to your city. Just like I can't remember where it was, but someone had asked Trump for, I guess, funding to help rebuild the community, and Trump said no. And I'm 100% with him in what he said there. No, you let your city get destroyed and then you want taxpayer money to rebuild it? No, you can figure that out from a local government standpoint, because all you had to do is back your police and stop with the foolish nonsense that these protests were peaceful. They may have started out as peaceful, but they quickly ramped up and were not peaceful. And at that time, you guys should have backed your law enforcement and did away with all of these riots, but you guys did it. You bought into this stupid Black Lives Matter narrative, and now your cities are destroyed and you want help rebuilding them. Well, I'm glad Trump said no, because I would have said no too. And I'm glad to know my tax dollars are not going to your crappy city in which you're not governing appropriately. But anyway, that's the video. You guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think Trump should have just stayed out of this one? I mean, had he, then we would have been talking about federal buildings. Obviously, it could have been burned down and stuff like that. It is their job to protect it. You really can't be mad at the president for that. And it doesn't matter who the president would have been. They would have had to done the same thing in order to preserve those buildings. It would have been their job. And had they not done it, then it would have been a negative thing. And what's so funny about it is, if Trump had not acted and then they did that to those buildings, they still would have found some way to put some type of blame on it. And it's so funny. All these people who are complaining about Trump sending in the troops are from these terrible blue cities that have been overrun, that are just destroyed. They care more about this 5% of Black Lives Matter people instead of the actual people living in their own community. And I mean, can we start holding these people accountable? That would be great. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm getting out of here. You guys have a good one.